Hello everyone, my name is Adriana Leone, and I will be discussing Chapter 4 of our text titled Philosophical Foundations of U.S. Education. Some of the main ideas that we will be going over today are: why is philosophy important for teachers? Explain the nature of philosophy. Key elements of your educational philosophy. 6 branches of philosophy that are important to teachers. 5 modern philosophical orientations to teaching. 3 schools of psychological thought that influence a teacher's philosophy. And last but not least, explain how you will develop an eclectic educational philosophy to guide your own teaching. Why is philosophy important for teachers? Well, it helps them understand how their beliefs and values influence the curriculum they present to the students. It also helps teachers focus on the purpose of education by providing students with knowledge that is useful and asking hard questions that teachers have to answer as far as goals. Philosophy can also enhance professionalism in 3 ways. Number 1, complex political tones that influence schools. Number 2, can help propose new proposals for change. And 3, awareness of how philosophy has influenced reasoning. Explaining the nature of philosophy. Well, we know a philosophy is concerned with identifying the basic truths about being, knowledge, and conduct. Philosophers attempt to describe the world in which we live by asking ourselves these 3 questions. What is truth? What is reality? And what life is worth living? The key elements of your educational philosophy. Just like the philosophers and their thinking, an educational philosophy consists with what you believe about education. This includes how students grow, learn, and what one should consider to learn to live a good life. In the classroom, it is extremely important to continually reflect on what you believe and why. This part lies the foundation of our educational philosophy. As well as our own beliefs, your beliefs about students will have a great influence on how you teach. You may have had your own experiences when you were younger with other students, but it is important to keep in mind that negative views of students may promote student-teacher relationships based on fear rather than on trust and helpfulness. Lastly, beliefs about knowledge on whether a teacher sees it as a sum of small bits of information or big main ideas connecting to current events. The 6 branches of philosophy that are important to teachers. The first is metaphysics, explaining as rationally as possible the nature of reality. It is a helpful tool to use in education because the school curriculum is based on what we know about reality. Second, epistemology. It focuses on knowledge about the world around you. There are 5 ways to answer these epistemological questions about knowledge. The first question is knowing based on authority. Authority including schools, textbooks, teachers. Number 2, knowing based on divine revelation, meaning religious beliefs as far as Christians, Catholics. 3, knowing based on experience. 4, knowing based on reason and logical analysis. And 5, knowing based on intuition, meaning your rational thought. Axiology focuses on value. It highlights the fact that the teacher has an interest not only in the quantity of the knowledge that students acquire, but also the quality of life that becomes possible because of this knowledge. Ethics. This refers to the values and focuses on what is good and bad, right versus wrong, and just or unjust. This branch of philosophy can help solve many dilemmas in the classroom. Aesthetics. It values related to beauty and art. Where can aesthetics be shown in the classroom, you ask? Well, a teacher's expressions in the classroom can be aesthetic. They can practice different mediums of expressions, such as spontaneous, and create that vibe between the student and teacher. Lastly, we have logic. This explains the process of reasoning and identifies rules that will enable the thinker to reach valid conclusion. Many teachers focus on teaching their students how to master deductive and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is thinking from a broad statement to a very specific and descriptive conclusion. Inductive reasoning is thinking from a very specific idea to a more general idea. 5 modern philosophical orientations of teaching. The first we have is perennialism. This views the truth as constant. In teaching terms, it is to ensure that students acquire knowledge of unchanging principles and great ideas. In the curriculum, perennialists should stress students' intellectual growth in arts and sciences. Second, we have essentialism. It has a more conservative philosophy of education. It states that our culture has a core of common knowledge that the schools are obligated to transmit to students in a systematic, disciplined way. Essentialists also stress that what they believe to be essential knowledge and skills that productive members of our society need to know. Next we have is progressivism. This believes that education should be child-centered rather than focus on the teacher or content area. It believes that the best way to prepare students for an unknown future is to equip them with problem-solving strategies that will enable them to discover meaningful knowledge at various stages of their lives. In this type of classroom, the teacher is more of a guide whose primary responsibility is to facilitate the student's learning. Next we have is existentialism. It focuses on the experiences of the individual, basically trying to define oneself. It offers the individual a way of thinking about my life, what has meaning for me, and what is true for me. Last, we have social reconstructionism. It holds that schools should take the lead in changing or reconstructing the current social order. This meaning, schools should become the primary agent for planning and directing social change. 3 schools of psychological thought that influence a teacher's philosophy. The first we have humanistic psychology. Humanism is the belief that individuals consult their own destinies through the application of intelligence and learning. It emphasizes personal freedom, choice, awareness, and responsibility. This is the goal of education as an individual, which is self-actualization. Second, we have behavioralism, based on the principle that desirable human behavior can be a product of design rather than accident. Our behaviors determined by forces in the environment shape our behavior. Teachers can create learners who exhibit desired behaviors by following 4 steps. Number 1, identify behaviors in observable terms. Number 2, establish procedure for recording behaviors. 3, each behavior identify appropriate reinforcement. And 4, ensure that student receives the reinforcement as soon as possible after displaying a desired behavior. Last, we have constructivism. The student is the key of learning. In constructivism, students use cognitive processes to construct understanding of the material to be learned. Constructivists support student-centered rather than teacher-centered curriculum or instruction. It also focuses on the mental processes and strategies that students use to learn. Explain how you would develop an eclectic educational philosophy to guide your own teaching. After reading and listening to the information, you may have agreed to disagree on some of the parts and sections. But don't think you have to pick one or the other because most teachers use multiple educational philosophies. Eclectic philosophy is when one develops their own unique blending of two or more philosophies. This can be a useful strategy for most teachers. In conclusion, here are my references. Becoming a Teacher.